As a long-time user of Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV here, which you might have seen me showing quite a bit of time, many times throughout the last 2 years, because this is my primary phone. So naturally I was very interested when Sony released this year Sony Xperia 1 Mark VI here. And this video, I will not be focusing too much on the technical details. I would highly recommend that you visit GSM Arena if you need some of the technical details. But here in this particular video, I'll be focusing more on the practical aspect of Sony Xperia 1 Mark VI from a user perspective. So I'll be focusing on several elements like, the ergonomics, the daily usage factor, the camera, the video, very important thing, and absolutely the reason why I choose Sony Xperia in the first place instead of many other phones, because Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV here supports 3.5mm single-ended headphone jack, which allow me to use my earphone, and I am happy to see that Sony Xperia 1 continue to provide that headphone jack here. As I said, this will not be a full detail review, but rather me sharing my experience as a user of Sony Xperia 1 Mark VI. Let's just start with the most basic things first, the build and the feature of this Sony Xperia 1 Mark VI here. Okay, now compare it side by side with my Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. Okay, you can clearly see that this Xperia 1 Mark VI is actually wider, and the aspect ratio, the display itself, is no longer 4K actually. It is closer towards the more traditional aspect ratio of 16:9. Do I like it? Yes, and I really love the fact that now I can see a bit more of height when it comes to video itself. It is pretty much the kind of very high quality Sony Xperia that you can expect. And the thing that I really like about this Xperia 1 Mark VI is that now at the back here you notice the texture. I really love it, instead of this just smooth glass of this Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. Another improvement which I love about this Sony Xperia 1 Mark VI over this Mark IV is the battery itself. You see, I never had any issue with this Xperia 1 Mark IV. Throughout the last 2 years I've been using it, I have been able to depend on the battery really well, in excess of, I don't have to worry that, of charging it within the space of 24 hours. But you want to know what? This Xperia 1 Mark VI here doubles that. Yes, you're hearing me right. Now I'm getting close to as much as 48 hours of runtime before this Xperia 1 Mark VI requires recharging. And I was doing like, streaming, watching YouTube videos, doing Facebook, doing social medias, you name it, the kind of normal thing that normal people would do. And this is how it looked like for both of them under direct sunlight. Okay, I think at least from here I can clearly see that it is slightly darker on the Mark IV and definitely a lot clearer on the Mark VI. So I would say that under direct sunlight the Mark VI will perform better than the Mark IV, and both already maxed out on the brightness. I'm just gonna compare the two of them with the performance of my phone. It's some serious shit camera here. Welcome to the city of Kuala Lumpur. I am vlogging now using Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV and also Mark VI compared side by side. So let's see the performance as compared to this one here. And vlogging like this. Okay, I'm walking like a madman now. The police is looking at me. I hope they're not stopping me because I don't have a permit. Okay. Yeah, Kuala Lumpur is a beautiful city, by the way. Alright.
Few minutes later.
I'm still switching myself like a madman here, walking in the middle of the sun. Alright. How is it? Is it good? How's the rolling shutter? I'm moving it around like this. Okay. And this is how it looked like using my professional setup. This is look like from these two. Oh, you know what? Xperia 1 Mark IV is already showing me here, this sign here. I'm not sure whether you can see it. It's starting to overheat. Temperature is rising. Okay. So it's still recording. Okay. Let me see. Yep, still recording, but it's already complaining about potential overheat. This thing weighs a lot, like 1.8 kilogram here. I'm holding in my hand. At least these two are quite light. And it's a busy time in Kuala Lumpur now, obviously. Okay. Alright. I am tired actually. Xperia 1 Mark 6 is still recording in this hot temperature. No issue at all with overheating, which is a good thing. But cannot say the same for the Mark 4. Okay, so we have seen how does those two perform under normal lighting condition, and I would just simply say that it is actually very impressive, both of them. I do notice that the Xperia 1 Mark 6 does appear to be a bit overexposed because of the auto settings, but it does give an indication that it will perform better, especially if you consider that the Mark 4 was already overheating at the mark of 3 minutes. And now you might be wondering, how do they perform in challenging lighting condition in low light, like what I'm doing right now. Okay, now it's already like almost 3 AM in the morning, very dark actually, indoors at night, and this is how it looked like from my normal camera here. And let's just switch over to those Sony Xperia phone. So first one would be the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, and this is how it looked like. They're sitting over there. Okay, are you looking at me now? Okay, how does it look like? The surrounding, the noise and everything. By the way, I have tried to set the ISO maximum to match them all together. That my camera here runs on ISO 2005, and of course it runs on F2.8. And the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, which is shooting me right now, is running on auto as well, at the maximum ISO set at 2005 and SDR 709, 24 frames per second, 4K, and with the shutter speed of 1/50. Okay, so now let's switch over to Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6 now. Okay, and as you would notice, probably it does look a bit brighter because I have no idea what is the maximum ISO, because at the current setting of that Xperia 1 Mark 6 I can't find the ISO setting. Unlike the Xperia 1 Mark IV, which has that ISO setting, which you can set the ceiling at 2005, this one is probably running as high as 6004. I have no idea. Okay, but we'll find out later how does it perform. The shutter speed is set at 1/48, and I think the focal is 24 mm as well. As mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons that I want this Xperia 1 Mark 6, and also I use my Xperia 1 Mark 4 here, okay, because of the audio function that they offer. Like, you know, so many other phones nowadays, even flagship, especially from Samsung or even Xiaomi or so many others, they opted not to provide this 3.5mm single-ended termination, which is so very important to me because I do love the convenience of attaching directly earphones like this and enjoy my music. Does this Xperia 1 Mark 6 offer any kind of improvement over the already good sounding Xperia 1 Mark 4? And my short answer is yes. This Xperia 1 Mark 6, I have used it extensively with my favorite IEM here, which is the Luxury S12 2024, and also my daily driver Safeguard Nightingale here. Two of them magnetic planar, not an easy IEM to drive, and attaching it directly using the 3.5mm ended single-ended termination like this, the most immediate improvement which I have observed between these two is that the Xperia 1 Mark 6 now offer a bit more of power. So meaning to say that when I listen to this Xperia 1 Mark 4, usually for this IEM here, I needed volume in excess of around 80 to 85% out of 100. And this Xperia 1 Mark 6 here, I am happy to say that I was able to use in excess of just at around 70 to 75% for the same level of loudness. So that is already an improvement. And the next improvement would be the sound presentation itself, the quality. I do feel that this Xperia 1 Mark 6 now offer a bit more of resolution overall, and also the imaging improved, the sound stage seems to be improved as well, and I think the dynamic authority of the overall sound presentation throughout the entire frequency range seems to be improved as well. After what I have shown you so far, the big question is this Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6 a worthy upgrade over Sony Xperia 1 Mark 4, which I already own, or if you are a user of Sony Xperia 1 Mark 5? And my short answer is yes, but it also depends on what you're looking for. For example, if you're looking for long battery life, more than double of what Xperia 1 Mark 4 offer, then this is a no-brainer and upgrade over what was already an impressive Xperia 1 Mark 4. And then you have to consider if you are looking for better heat management, especially if you are doing something like, you know, gaming, or even in my case, I use a lot of video, I would definitely choose this over Xperia 1 Mark 4 because as you have seen earlier, that Sony Xperia 1 Mark 4 still overheat at the mark of, let's say, even 3 minutes, and this one have no issue at all, running all the way until I stop the video. Simply put, the improvement of this Mark 6 over Mark 4 when it comes to sound quality and performance does seems to be justifiable to upgrade from Mark 4 to Mark 6, because I do feel that this Mark 6 offer a bit more of better experience when it comes to music listening. So all in all, yes, let me just repeat myself, this Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6 is a worthy upgrade if you are an existing user of Sony Xperia series, or even if you are contemplating moving from other phone to Sony Xperia system.